This video is to show the operation of the TLC controller. I've got it hooked up to my servo tester, and I have a couple of servos connected to it to help show you what each channel is doing. So the point of this controller is it will use a 3-position channel to operate some park lights and headlights, and it will use a tap into your throttle channel to work the brake lights, reverse lights, and forward lights. A quick note about the forward lights. People get confused by them. Not every speed control goes forward when you pull on the trigger. Some of them are set up differently internally so that it actually goes in reverse. And rather than put jumpers on the controller to select which direction the reverse lights come on in, I just made a second output. So if you go into reverse and your forward lights go on, we'll just swap those two around, the reverse output and the forward output, and then you'll get your reverse lights coming on. So the name is just kind of irrelevant, but there's the bonus part that you get the second output, and you can have the set of driving lights come on if you like when you go forward. So here we are all plugged in to my servo tester. This channel is going to operate this servo. There's a servo under there, just a piece of wire for a pointer. This channel is going to operate that one. So this is the 3-position channel for your park and headlights. This is the throttle channel. Now the controller itself is meant to tap in between the receiver and the speed control, so it's got an in and an out for that. So really this servo is just hanging on the output, and it's acting just like your speed control. You'll notice it's in the middle. When the thing powers up, it notices where the throttle control is set. So it's assuming that when you power it up, your finger's off the throttle, and that'll be considered the brakes. Okay? So when I say brakes, I don't mean push forward on the throttle trigger to activate the brakes. What I mean is take your finger off the throttle and the brake lights will come on. So right now I have it wired up with just 2 outputs connected, the park light and headlight. So they're off the 2 white marker type connectors. Now the park light gets its power from receiver voltage, usually 6 volts. The headlight output takes a tap off the power going to your speed control, off the double Deans connector right there, and so you can have maybe a 12-volt light bar or something if you're running 3S LiPo. So right now this servo is all the way left, or to the right, pardon me, and as you turn the throttle up, the channel up, the park lights will come on roughly about here, and then you go a little bit further and the headlights will come on too. Okay, so this is kind of an amber light that'll represent your park lights. These two here together are white lights, which will represent the headlight. So as I move it up, you see the arm move. When I get past a certain point, that comes on. You see a little flicker there because I was just right on the transition, so don't worry about that. You just go past it. And again, we've got the next transition, so the headlights come on. So when you set your midpoint and your end points of your control, you want to make sure it's on solid. Okay, so headlights are on, park lights are on. I'm going to swing back, the headlights will go off. Go a little further, the park lights go off. Park lights, headlights. Okay, easy. I'm going to pause the video here and move the connectors around. Now I have the brake lights plugged in, those ones, and I have the park lights still plugged in. I unplugged the headlight output just because it's unnecessary for this demo. So we see that we have the speed control set in the middle, which is, finger off the throttle, therefore brakes are on, and the brake lights are bright. If I push or pull on the throttle to go forward or reverse, you'll notice the brake lights go off. Go back to the middle, brake lights are on. Go the other way, brake lights are off. There you go. Now I'm just going to go off center, and as you see, the brake lights are off. Now In a real car, when you turn on the park lights or the headlights, you also get tail lights. So to simulate that, these brake lights will light up dimly when the park lights or brake lights are on. See, they're on, and the park lights are on. And now I'll go back to the brakes. You'll see it gets bright again. Okay, so tail lights or not. Brakes on, bright. You probably won't see a change in brightness depending if the park lights are on or off. Now I've plugged in a couple more lights. So again, this is still park lights, brake lights. Now we have reverse and forward lights. So brake lights are on, arms in the middle, fingers off the throttle. Now we go off middle, brake lights will go dim, and the forward or reverse ones will come on. Okay, so let's call that forward. Back to the middle, the brake lights come on, go a little beyond, now the reverse lights are on. Okay, so reverse, brake, forward. And just for fun, we'll turn on the park lights again, which makes the brake lights come on dimly. Or not. Brakes back on again. Anyway, forward. See, we still have dim park lights. Now we're going to add hazard lights. I'll just do this live. Why not? So plug them in here. See, we have a blue light. I'm going to plug that into the hazard light output. Okay, hey, it's flashing now. So the hazard light output only starts flashing when the brake lights have been on for at least 30 seconds. So as I turn off the brake lights by going forward or reverse, the hazard light stops blinking. Put the brakes back on. Now we wait. And soon the hazard lights will start to flash again. There you go. And the hazard lights won't be affected by the park headlight output. Doesn't matter. Oh, sorry, I bumped the throttle control. And you see this flashing because I just have it on the hairy edge of being on. Anyway, wait again. There's your hazard lights again. And my point was that doing the park lights on or off won't affect the hazard lights because it's watching the brake light signal. When the brake light turns off, either going forward or reverse, it cancels the hazard lights. And there's one final output, so I'll just move that blue LED, previously hazard, I'm going to move it to the final output, which is the always on output. And indeed, you get a blue light. It's on, doesn't matter what we do. Let's plug it back into the hazard output for a second. And I'm going to cycle the power. Get everything in the middle here. I'm going to cycle the power on the system here so that you'll see that the lights all flash a little sequence as the thing wakes up. Part of that flashing at boot up time is so it can calibrate itself. When the system powers up, it notices where the throttle signal is and it considers that to be zero throttle or finger in the middle. So it's important not to touch the throttle control until the lights have finished flashing whenever you power up your system. So I'll remove power, and now I'll plug it back in. You can hear one of my servos buzzing. They're just junk servos I had laying around. Anyway, there you go. It's all powered up, and you see you've got the brake lights on because the brake lights happen to be here. Just to show that point, I'll move the throttle off center here, and I will boot it up again, and it'll consider this new position to be zero throttle. If I can plug it in right there. Okay, so we still get our forward and reverse lights, but the brake position is now way over here, whereas before I had it around there. I hope that answers any questions you might have.